Welcome to State of the State. I'm Darlene DeRezzo, and I'm in conversation with Mr. David Cicilline. He is the president and CEO of the Rhode Island Foundation. The Rhode Island Foundation was founded in 1916 and is the largest funder of nonprofits in Rhode Island. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming back. It's been a while.
Yes, it has.
Yes.
It's great to be back.
So, the Rhode Island Foundation was founded in 1916. Tell us about the founding of it. And I understand it was with a donation of $10,000. Right? So
yes, the Rhode Island.
I'm sorry, but that must have been substantial at the time.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
The Rhode Island Foundation, as you mentioned, was founded in 1916. It's 109 years old. It's actually the second oldest community foundation in the entire country. So we've been around a long time. And community foundations are really these wonderful organizations that really allow anyone's generosity to really have an impact in the communities that they're a part of. And so what we do is we accept gifts of all shapes and sizes. We invest those gifts in, as part of our endowment, and then we use a responsible portion of that endowment every year to invest in all of our efforts to make life better here in Rhode Island. And so this is intended to be a vehicle that provides resources today and for all future generations. So the great thing about community foundations is it's a wonderful place to do your philanthropic work or to do your charitable giving, because you can make sure whatever issue you're concerned about, whatever part of the state, we have some donors who care about animals deeply, and so we have funds particularly to support animal welfare. We have lots of donors who care a lot about education. Sometimes a donor will say, I'm from the northern part of the state, or I'm from Newport County. I really want to focus my giving on organizations doing work in the geographic area where I live. So that's the beauty of a community foundation. We can sort of tailor it to whatever is the desire of the donor, but because of the generosity of Rhode Islanders for over a century, we have been a force for good in the state for 109 years. And the way we do our work is we do grant making, so we give grants to nonprofit organizations doing work. We also convene. Sometimes we'll bring people together to help solve a big problem and to come up with strategies to respond to an issue. And we also do advocacy. Sometimes we're trying to change some big systems that will make a difference. So that's the work of the Rhode Island Foundation. When I got to the Rhode Island Foundation just about a year and a half ago, we embarked upon an effort to really develop a kind of an action plan for the time that I'm leading the Rhode Island Foundation. And it was very important to me that that action plan be informed by Rhode Islanders. We have a great team at the Rhode Island Foundation, spectacular people, but I wanted to be sure that what we developed for the priorities for our work came from the community, that we listened to folks all across Rhode Island about what they saw as the biggest challenges facing Rhode Islanders and also the greatest opportunities. So we traveled the whole state from Woonsocket to Westerly and everywhere in between. We had community dinners where we just invited Rhode Islanders to come and just share ideas about what they see as the great strengths of Rhode Island, what do they think are some of the biggest challenges, what do they want the Rhode Island Foundation to focus on. We did polling, we did surveys, we did individual interviews, we had these community dinners, just any way that we could to get information from Rhode Islanders. In total, we heard from over 2,000 Rhode Islanders in the development of our action plan. And so we released it last month, and I'm proud to say this is a plan that really reflects what we heard from Rhode Islanders all across the state.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about what you heard, some of the strengths that Rhode Islanders feel like the state has, and then maybe places where there's room for improvement.
So we heard a lot of Rhode Islanders who took enormous pride in the beauty of our state, particularly the natural beauty, our beaches, the ocean, just the natural beauty of Rhode Island. There was a lot of pride. People just loved their home state, and they really valued their ability to have close contact with their elected officials. That they felt like this was a place where they knew their local city council or town council members, they knew their United States Senator or their member of Congress. They felt like they had a good way to have their voices heard by people representing them in government. They were very interested in the Rhode Island Foundation remaining focused on the issue of education. People are really concerned about education, and they, that's an area we've worked in a lot. Healthcare remains a top priority for Rhode Islanders, and making sure that everyone has the same opportunities. Rhode Island's a very diverse place, and one of our great strengths is the very many communities that call Rhode Island home, and making sure economic opportunity was available to everyone all across Rhode Island. We heard a lot. So those areas about economic mobility and housing, we heard a lot about housing, a huge challenge, of course, here in Rhode Island. Education and healthcare, those were areas that the Rhode Island Foundation has already done a considerable amount of work in. And so when we developed our set of community priorities, there are 6 community priorities. Education, is one, and that remains a really important one for us, making sure young people have access to a high-quality education in every community in Rhode Island. Working hard to improve our healthcare system to make sure every Rhode Islander has access to quality, affordable healthcare. And then economic opportunity, we changed it a little bit. It used to be called economic opportunity, but it's now called economic mobility and housing. We put those two things together because they're so connected. If you have a place to live, you have a better chance of succeeding in school, holding on to a job, having good physical health. So housing is foundational to all that. So housing and then economic mobility, helping people build generational wealth. That's kind of the focus of that third area. And then the kind of 2 areas that are new that we heard a lot from Rhode Islanders about, and they're not completely new because we do some work in each of these areas, but in our 5-year action plan, we're planning to do more. And the first one is climate. People really want the Rhode Island Foundation to play a bigger role in making sure we're doing all we can to ensure that we're responding to the climate crisis. And that doesn't surprise me because so much pride was taken in the beauty of Rhode Island and our oceans, but a lot of concern about what's the impact of climate change. And so we are going to play a bigger role in that area, and we're already working with a number of legislators and with the Department of Environmental Management, kind of sort of leading the work on climate. But the second area that we heard a lot about was, many people said, can the Rhode Island Foundation do more to kind of bridge some of the divides? We live in a polarized time. We have really divided country. People were describing seeing the same kinds of divisions in their own communities. And they thought, is there some way the Rhode Island Foundation could help kind of reconnect people to their neighbors and reconnect to this sense of community and the kind of civic health of Rhode Island? And so one of our new community priorities is civic health and what we're calling civic and cultural life, because it's not only the civic health, but it's also cultural opportunities. And we've done a lot of work to support arts and cultural organizations. It's always been a really important priority for the Rhode Island Foundation, but also understanding that part of the way that you can help bring people together is through shared artistic experiences. People who go to a concert, nobody knows what your background is, what your political affiliation is, where you went to school, where you live, but the idea of sharing, arts and cultural experiences is a good way to kind of recognize your common humanity. So part of the action plan really has 2 areas that, as I said, are not completely new, but that will become even more important in the next 5 years, and that is the climate action work and really improving the civic health of our state. And that's everything from investing in civics education so people know how government works, to make sure that their voices are heard, to media literacy, making sure we support local journalism so people have access to trustworthy, reliable news. Media literacy is important too, so people understand when is something a reliable source of information. And then there's a lot of efforts to just help people kind of learn how to disagree with each other, but without kind of making that other person your enemy. And I think people are desperate for, just getting to be connected to their neighbors again and not feel like they're adversaries. So that civic health thing is going to be really important. I have actually been part of a coalition of community foundations around the country that I've brought together to really help share best practices, how to do this work. We created for Rhode Island, with the help of the National Civic League, which is the oldest civics association in America, a framework to improve the civic health of Rhode Island. And it's really a toolkit of different things you can do to help improve the civic health of Rhode Island. We're going to use that template and share it with community foundations around the country and bring together a group of us to really share what's the best way to do it, how do you measure success, how do you measure impact, because I think there are a lot of communities that are yearning for the same kind of thing. And in a lot of ways, community foundations are uniquely positioned to do this because we're trusted by the community, we have relationships in the community, and we have resources to do this work. I'm working with a number of national funders who have a lot of money, who are interested in improving civic health in our country, but they don't have the kind of boots on the ground, they don't have the relationships, or they don't know the organizations that can do this. And so community foundations, I think, are uniquely positioned to do this work. And the Rhode Island Foundation is really going to lead the way, not only here in Rhode Island, but we're going to share these practices with our colleagues at community foundations around the country.
Yeah. What might that look like? Is that, a class in school, at the college level, in the community, at the community library?
Yeah, I mean, it's all those things.
Yeah.
I mean, what's great, one of the great things about being the president and CEO of the Rhode Island Foundation is I have the privilege of every day meeting with individuals who are either work in nonprofits, founded nonprofits, or on the board of nonprofits who are doing just amazing things. I met some months ago with a group of young people that started their own nonprofit, and they're making these videos. They're almost like cartoons. Mm-hmm. How to register to vote, how to testify at the State House, how to protest, all these kind of civic activities so that other young people can download these videos and learn about all of these things. That's just one small example, but it can be any of those things. It can be supporting a nonprofit doing civics education. The Secretary of State has a great program that we've supported that's taking young people to the State House to learn all about state government. Much like I did at Project Close-Up when I went to Washington as a high school student. Mm-hmm. It can be supporting the development of a civics education program in your school. It can be, we support a number of local journalists, nonprofit journalists who are doing really excellent work, supporting local journalism. There's a number of other ideas, organizations that are really helping trying to just bring people together. I mean, some years ago, there was something called National Neighborhood Day that was actually started by a Rhode Islander. And it was one day a year just where everyone was invited to have a neighborhood barbecue just to get to know your neighbors. And I don't know exactly what happened to it, but I'd like to bring that back because that's a very simple idea of just like bringing people together. It's amazing in this sort of world in which we live now, how many people don't know their neighbors. Mm-hmm. And this was a way to say, at this one day, everyone's just going to invite neighbors in just to introduce themselves and just to try to develop a sense of community. I mean, that's what community foundations are about. So I think there's a lot of exciting work we can do in this civic health space. The Rhode Island Council on the Humanities did a really good report on the state of civic health in Rhode Island that we really used as a basis for our action plan. So they've done a lot of good work on how to measure that and how do you see if you're making progress. But I think there's a lot of evidence about people feeling isolated and alone, particularly after COVID. And I think community foundations can really play a very important role in helping to bring people back together and develop a sense of responsibility to each other. Philanthropy ultimately is about caring about someone else enough to work to improve their lives, and that's at the heart of what we do at the Rhode Island Foundation. Yeah.
Who becomes a donor or recipient?
So everyone can, that's one of my goals is to make it clear to everyone that everyone can be a philanthropist. Sometimes it's donating your time, sometimes it's donating goods and services, sometimes it's serving on a board, sometimes it's contributing money. I mean, there's just many different ways that you can support the work of a nonprofit organization. At the Rhode Island Foundation, we have people who donate small amounts of money, and then we have people who donate very large amounts of money, and everything in between. And Rhode Islanders have been incredibly generous. The Rhode Island Foundation has been able to do its work for more than 100 years because of the generosity of Rhode Islanders and because we've been really good stewards of this endowment that we have grown over time, which today is about $1.5 billion. Wow. And so that endowment is what we use. The earnings from that are what we use. Last year we made grants between our own grants and donor-directed grants of about $89 million. So But anyone who's interested in finding out more about how they can be part of the Rhode Island Foundation family, you can just go to rhodeislandfoundation.org. You can learn about the programs we support, the work we do, and about the different ways you can contribute to the work of the Rhode Island Foundation.
Okay, and then how does one become a recipient? And
so if you go onto our website, there are grant applications and descriptions. We have essentially kind of 3 big grant areas. One are called community grants, and those are grants to support the community priorities, the 6 that I mentioned in our 5-year action plan.
Okay, yep. Should
this is also online, so you can download it or just read it on our website.
Okay.
But the community priorities grants go to support one of the 6 community priorities in our 5-year action plan. We have a second grant program, which is really about capacity building to help organizations kind of strengthen their board or help their executive director or help them with fundraising, like making sure organizations are strong and high performing. And so we provide support to brand new emerging organizations, and sometimes nonprofits that have been around for a long time that just need some work to address a particular issue. So making sure that the nonprofits that we're investing in are operating at the sort of top of their game so that they can have the biggest impact and make the biggest difference in the lives of Rhode Islanders. And then the third area is the area that I'm the most excited about. This is sort of a new grant program we call it Catalyst. And it's really intended to be a program where multiple organizations will collaborate together and make a proposal for a bigger amount of money. And it's a multi-year commitment from the Rhode Island Foundation. And it's really going to be judged on the impact you're going to have. And so sometimes we have organizations that are all doing really important work, but if they work together, they could even have a bigger impact. And so the Catalyst Grants is designed because we heard from grantees that for planning purposes, it's better for them if they know they have multi-year commitments. Every year worrying about it is a challenge. So this Catalyst Grant responded to that, but also we wanted to make sure if we're going to do a multi-year grant of a bigger amount of money, we want to be certain that it's going to have a bigger impact. And so that Catalyst Grants are really designed for that kind of bigger impact, multiple partners, and a bigger grant over time. So all that's on our website. Again, it's rifoundation.org. It gives the information about the grant programs. We also, anyone can call, obviously, and ask to speak to anyone, including me, and we're happy to give them more information. But we have a terrific website that has a lot of good information on it.
Yeah. Do you have to be a nonprofit? You do.
You do have to be a nonprofit. The way that our community foundation is constructed and the way our donors and the way the tax code is written, you have to be a nonprofit to be a recipient of a grant.
Okay. Do you want to tell us more, open that up, delve into that?
Sure.
Okay.
So what's nice about this is the 5-year action begins with a mission statement, which was really important because it describes kind of in a simple way what we do, and I'll just read it.
Sure.
As Rhode Island's only community foundation, we mobilize generosity and motivate change that makes a difference. Our local roots, statewide relationships, and century of experience anchor our work, and our hopes for our home reach high. Since 1916, we've been a funder and true partner to those who help the state thrive, working hard at each table, across every community, by their side, to improve the lives of all Rhode Islanders. Only together, through strong partnerships and building on work that comes before, can we create progress that lasts. And really, the lesson of the Rhode Island Foundation, and really the reason the mission states this so clearly, is that we can only get this work done by working in partnership with the community. The generosity of our donors, the incredibly hard work of our nonprofit partners, and the impact that they're having. And we really tried to distill in kind of 4 simple descriptions who we are as a community foundation. And this is this page I love because it really says who we are: neighbors serving neighbors, and that's very much at the kind of in the DNA of the Rhode Island Foundation. We're about really just people taking care of each other, which is neighbors serving neighbors. Second is the community table, and this is really about the role of the Rhode Island Foundation as a convener, a place where you can bring people together around a table to solve big problems, come up with creative new ideas. Opportunity stable ground is the third principle of who we are. That's really about the kind of continuity of the Rhode Island Foundation. We've been around for 109 years. We've been there through times of great challenge, times of great opportunity. When COVID happened and the state needed help getting money out quickly to where it belonged, they came to the Rhode Island Foundation and we got it done. So it's this idea of a stable, reliable force in the community that's trusted. And then the last is the greater force for good. And this is really about our kind of what inspires us, that by working together, by working with our partners, by working with the community, by taking action, we can make Rhode Island better. And that's our goal, to do everything we can to make Rhode Island a better place for everyone. So that's who we are. How does it work? This is another great one. It's a kind of simple way to understand it. It starts with a gift. You said at the very beginning, start off with a $10,000 gift.
Yeah.
And then it moves to grant making and investments, where we invest that money, convening, bringing people together, advocacy, directly elevating community needs, capacity building, as I mentioned, strengthening the capabilities of both individuals and organizations to get their work done. And it gets back to that. And all this can only be done when we do it together with the community. Mm-hmm. So that's another kind of great part of the report. And then it goes through in detail kind of the 6 community priorities for thriving Rhode Island, and kind of the focus areas in each of these 6 community priorities where we're going to make our investments. And then at the end, we gave us some case studies. It really gives some examples of what we've already done in these areas to show people the kinds of organizations that we funded, the kind of work that we're funding. And, there's a lot to be proud of. It's a great team at the Rhode Island Foundation. When I arrived there, I got to, I knew the Rhode Island Foundation from my time as a state legislator, and then as mayor, and then as a member of Congress. I worked with the Rhode Island Foundation in a variety of different ways. But I really didn't get to know the people deeply that work there until I became the president and CEO. And it's a great team of incredibly hardworking people that care a lot about making Rhode Island a better place. And when you look at the history of the Rhode Island Foundation, it's had an amazing impact on our state over the last 109 years.
Is there a bit from a case study that you'd like to share?
Oh, now you're going to get me in trouble, because which one I pick will...
He's going to pick randomly.
I'm going to pick randomly.
Or I could pick, so...
I would say, no,
Okay.
I would say, only because I just spoke about the civic health one.
Okay.
This is really important because I think one of the things that is very important in communities, and you look at communities that are thriving, is a civic culture, a sense of people feeling like their voices are heard, understanding how the community works, and making sure that they understand they have responsibilities as citizens to engage in the civic life of their communities. And so we support a program that was created by the Secretary of State to support civics education, to give young people experiences. There was a first ever leadership summit that they sponsored. But it's an opportunity to give young people a deeper understanding of how government works. They have workshops, and they create these civic action projects, and they visit the State House, and it really sparks in these young people an interest in being part of their communities, whatever it is, whether it's working for government, working for the town, working for state government, running for office, or just being involved in the activities of a nonprofit, but just developing some sense of responsibility to the community that they're a part of. So that's just one example. But we have a case study for each of our community priorities, because we want to give people a sense of just, what does that mean?
Yeah,
what if you're supporting it in what way? As the largest funder of nonprofits, it's hard to think of an organization that's making a big difference in Rhode Island that doesn't get some support from the Rhode Island Foundation, and we couldn't do that but for the generosity of generations of Rhode Islanders.
Yes.
And that's the other thing is, everyone can start, even a small fund at the Rhode Island Foundation. It's a good way if you have, a school you went to and you want to start a scholarship for a student, or if you care about a particular issue. We have funds that are, as I said, focused on a particular geographic area, that focus on a particular subject matter. We have something for everyone. If you are interested in doing your philanthropy or giving in any way generously to help improve the lives of other Rhode Islanders, reach out to us and we can make that generosity come alive, and we can be sure this is going to have the biggest impact. And one of the things that the Rhode Island Foundation has, that's sort of the secret sauce of community foundations, is a lot of times people are very well intentioned. They say, look, I'd like to contribute to education. I don't have time to study every nonprofit to find out who's a good leader of a nonprofit, who's doing really successful work, who's making a difference. We have a great team at the Grants and Community Investments part of our foundation. They work every day with all the nonprofits, so they know this organization is doing great work. This organization's in leadership transition. This organization has had some trouble. So folks come to the Rhode Island Foundation because they can rely on the information that we have collected for 109 years about what's working, what's not working, who's doing excellent work. And so that's really what a community foundation offers. That's very special, that's a commercial entity can't do. So that's why if Rhode Islanders are interested in making contributions to improve the lives of people in their own communities, the Rhode Island Foundations are the best place to do it.
Yeah, how has the Rhode Island Foundation stood the test of time? 109 years.
Yeah, I mean,
were there any rough spots in there?
I'm sure there were in those 109 years, but I think the way that it has done it is, it has always been led by really responsible people. We have a great board of directors that have been wonderful stewards of this great legacy. And I think everybody who works at the Rhode Island Foundation, they come to work understanding the responsibility they have because they're part of an organization that has been respected in our state for over a century, that has made a difference in the lives of Rhode Island and Rhode Islanders, and that people think about when they think about, if I want to give back to my community, how can I do it? And the Rhode Island Foundation is the answer. And we know that, and we know that that's something we have to protect and something that we safeguard very carefully. And you do it by doing really good work. These are individuals who are very conscientious, who care a lot about Rhode Islanders, who care a lot about making things better for Rhode Island, and they take their work seriously. And I think Rhode Islanders have noticed that, and that's why they've been so generous over the years. And I mean, it's remarkable to see people who, at the end of their lives say, I've accumulated this wealth. I want to give back to the community where it was made here in the state of Rhode Island. And the most obvious place to do that is the Rhode Island Foundation. They can have confidence that it's going to be used in a way that's going to make life better, and that's going to be not only for tomorrow, but for all future generations.
We are down to a minute or so. Tell me something about the Rhode Island Foundation we might not know.
I think one thing that people are often surprised to learn is that we give out scholarships, college scholarships. Last year, just over $4 million. So we're getting ready to launch the scholarships for this season, so check them out on our website.
Do you have to attend a school in Rhode Island?
No, you just have to be a Rhode Island resident.
Okay.
You just have to live in Rhode Island. You can go to school anywhere. And so, college is expensive, and we have lots of generous donors who have created scholarships. As I said, we give about $4 million a year in scholarships, and some of them are very specific. They're for nursing and specific careers. Some of them are general. Some of them are for kids from a particular high school. But in total, there's over $4 million, and it's to really encourage people because they don't always think of the Rhode Island Foundation when they think of college scholarships.
Yeah, and you don't have to give that money back. It's a
That's
scholarship.
Right. That's right.
Fantastic.
And our most generous one is actually a 4-year, $20,000 a year, so it's $80,000 in scholarships. So it goes from that all the way down. So yeah. But again, RhodeIslandFoundation.org. Learn more about your community foundation. We're here to serve Rhode Island, and thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Anything that you'd like to share about yourself that viewers might not know?
I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild.
Really? Well, that's interesting. We'll have to have you back.
I was the only SAG member in Congress, so yes.
That's so interesting. That is something that I did not know.
Yeah, most people don't know that.
Yeah. So
I did that because when I was mayor, they filmed a lot in the city of Providence, and I was in a few things and finally got my SAG card.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you.
This was very informational. We will have the contact information up on the show. I am Darlene DeRezzo. Thank you for watching State of the State. Please find us on social media. We have a new Instagram account that is @StateOfTheStateRI. Thank you.